Hello, welcome to The Revealing. I'm your host, Pavarotti, and I'm here to discuss the Idaho 4 case. And this is going to be a special holiday edition of The Revealing, as we are going to go into that one area where the man of the hour, Bill Thompson, got up in court. And instead of going through the PCA, he went through a altered version of the PCA. And we're going to talk about exactly what was said in there. But first, we have got an all-star panel here at The Revealing today. We're going to bring in Matt, who is a preferred prosecuting commentator for the mainstream morons, and we'll get his opinions on a few things. And then the man of the hour himself, none other than Bill Thompson, will join us here at The Revealing to answer a few of those questions that he actually, or to ask a few questions to clarify some of those statements that Bill made during the plea hearing for Bryan Kohberger. So without further ado, let's go ahead and move to the set where that interview can take place. First of all, Matt, Bill, welcome to The Revealing. Thank you for taking this interview. And I got a question for you, Matt. First of all, I mean, what do you think about the performance of Bill Thompson throughout this, so-called close of the Idaho 4 Bryan Kohberger case? What are your thoughts?
It's like, dude, you gave this guy a break. And we didn't hear one single thing that changed in your assessment between the aggravating and the mitigating factors. We didn't hear anything. We didn't hear anything about a new story of abuse, some piece of evidence that wasn't going to be admitted. Nothing changed.
Well, hold up, Matt. I think I've got to disagree with you there, man. Even though it was very subtle, I think a lot changed, in fact. And I'll point out the very first thing that I noticed that changed, because I've pointed it out many times on the videos that I do. You see, in the probable cause affidavit, we were all told that a vehicle was captured on camera going on Nevada Street, crossing Stadium Way, and then it was caught again on camera coming back on Nevada Street and turning on Stadium Way towards 270. And then we ascertained that later on, that same vehicle was captured on camera at Floyd Cannabis Shop. But now when we hear the abbreviated facts, so-called facts of the case expressed by Bill Thompson in court, it was very odd that the camera footage on WSU was like it just never existed. It's like it was never part of that main case against Bryan Kohberger. In fact, Bill, tell us when the first time that you now say they captured Bryan Kohberger's car on camera was.
Mr. Kohberger's phone left his Pullman residence, which is an apartment in kind of the central northwest part of Pullman. That phone was then subsequently turned off at approximately 2:54 a.m. and remained off until approximately 4:48 a.m. on Sunday, the 13th of November. The state's evidence would include a trial, video surveillance of a business on the Moscow-Pullman Highway, just across the state line from Moscow. It would show a vehicle matching the description of the defendant's Hyundai Elantra entering Moscow at approximately 3:02 a.m.
I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Like you, be strong to hold the powers of the sun. Can I be your superhero?
Hello, welcome to The Revealing. I'm your host, Pavarotti, and I am here to discuss the Idaho 4 case. And now that we've had a few days to let the emotions kind of come down a little bit, me included, now we can start to really pick some fly shit out of black pepper on this holiday weekend, because we heard Bill Thompson stand up in court and deliver what he called the facts of the case. And as he did that, I think every one of us had our stomachs just fall right to the ground. I know I did, because the things that I heard him say when he went through the evidence in this case, made me want to reach out and touch about 10,000 or million, ever how many they are, guilters out there that told us for so long, well, wait till you get to trial, you'll get to see all the evidence that we don't get to see. There's so much we haven't seen. Yeah, right. Guess what? The things that we hadn't seen was the fact that they didn't have any evidence. And the evidence that they did have was not even the evidence that they were going to present at trial. They knew it wasn't Brian Kohberger's car at WSU leaving on going northeast on Southeast Nevada Street at Stadium Way, coming back down, caught on camera at Stadium Way and Nevada Street, heading towards 270. They knew that wasn't Brian Kohberger's car. I've pointed it out now in videos about 100 times, and bam, bam, bam. As Bill Thompson goes through and delivers the facts, he conveniently leaves out the fact that that was not Brian Kohberger's car on those video footages. So guess what? When you dive into the details and you look and you see that that is not Brian Kohberger's car there and they are acknowledging it, guess what? The chances of that car that they did see on that camera footage not being the same car at 302 at Floyd Cannabis Shop is about 1,000,000 to 1. Now, this is where the devil is in the details, and this is where something needs to be done about this crap, because this isn't speculation. This is absolute fact now. When they say that Brian Kohberger's car, or a white car matching the description of suspect vehicle, more importantly, is caught right here going this way on Northeast Nevada Street or Southeast Nevada Street and Stadium Way, and then they say the vehicle comes back on Southeast Nevada Street and Stadium Way and heads towards 270. They now acknowledge this isn't Brian Kohberger's car. But here's the thing you've got to look at. The next sighting of suspect vehicle is at Floyd Cannabis Shop right here at, you heard Bill Thompson say, 302. Now, if that wasn't Brian Kohberger's car, and he says his phone stopped reporting to the network at 2:54 a.m., and I'm not going to play the clip, but he has acknowledged that the defense will argue that his phone had gone south and west of Pullman, Washington, which means this way towards Wawa Park, where it stopped reporting at 2:54. It makes it impossible for Brian Kohberger to get here at 3:02. Those are the critical 7 minutes that we'll never hear argued in court. But this is the factual basis based on everything they've said. This is the only way you can take this. You see, if the vehicle on Northeast Stadium Way and Nevada Street came this way, it would have been caught on this camera at Southeast Bishop Boulevard that they absolutely had access to because it was listed later. So we know the vehicle didn't come this way. So how did the vehicle get from here to Floyd Cannabis Shop, and would it have taken exactly the time from the vehicle to be seen on this camera to be seen on this camera at 3:02? And I conclude absolutely it would. So knowing that is not Brian Kohberger's car, the vehicle would not have come back up this way, okay? It couldn't go this way because of the camera footage on Bishop. So it would have had to come this way, but we know it didn't because right here it says that it headed towards 270. It never said it was heading back north. The only way that could be is if the vehicle took this road heading south towards 270 on Olympia. Then it could have just come right around and bypassed that camera at Bishop Boulevard and went this way. Or it could have went this other way, but we'll never know because of Wendy.com here at the airport. So the most likely way that the vehicle would have went was down here on Olympia, back around to Grimes Way, where there was no camera footage that was ever listed in any document. And by taking that route, going past the airport where the missing footage at Wendy.com would have caught it, and putting it right here at Floyd Cannabis Shop, taking this additional path through right here, and that would have put him right at Floyd's Cannabis Shop at the proper time. Or if he went the other route, bypassing the Bishop Boulevard camera, it would have also put him, which would have put him right there at 302. And when I say him, I mean the person who was driving suspect vehicle 1. And we know it wasn't Brian Kohberger. So that is the only way where all of the evidence makes sense. And it tells us that this vehicle is actually the vehicle that they did capture on Northeast Nevada Street and Stadium Way twice. Neither one being Brian Kohberger's car, knowing both of those sightings match suspect vehicle, and that could be the only vehicle that you would see at Floyd Cannabis Shop that matches it. So we know something's not right here. The state's case is a farce, and Bill Thompson admits it right there when he leaves out Northeast Stadium Way and Nevada Street camera footage. So if that wasn't Brian Kohberger's car, and they knew it wasn't because his phone did not leave his apartment until 2:45, therefore it couldn't have been his car on that video footage, they've acknowledged that, you heard right there, we're going to listen to it. We're going to go through it. But they actually acknowledged that his phone stopped reporting to the network. He said he turned his phone off at 2:54. Yeah, they didn't provide any proof for that though, did he? 2:54. What does it say in the PCA? 2:47. So he acknowledged 2 lies as he began to go through the facts of the case. Really 3 lies, because they said he had his vehicle on camera footage twice that it turns out it wasn't his car. They lied and said 2:47 when they knew it was 2:54. And when you plug in his location at 2:54, it also negates the fact that that could not be his car on Floyd Cannabis Shop at 3:02. But more importantly, that was a car on camera at Floyd Cannabis Shop at 3:02, and it was the one that they did catch on video at 2:44 and 2:47, or 2:42 and 2:47 at WSU and on WSU at Northeast Nevada Street and Stadium Way. So what does that tell you? That tells me that, and a plethora of other things that he goes over when he delivers these so-called facts, makes me want to dive into that courtroom. And I know Ann Taylor and Massoff had to be sitting there going, good grief, I would like to say something right now. But they couldn't. Their tongues were tied. Tongues were tied by the legal system. So, yeah, we're going to go through what Bill Thompson described as so-called facts, point out the ones that we knew were wrong. And that's why I say, when I come across things where I could go, well, I could see where Kohberger could have done this, but it doesn't match the state's case. You see, Kohberger could have gone to Wawaway Park, and that would have put him entering the neighborhood at King Road if he had done that right at 404. That very much could have been Brian Kohberger's car entering the neighborhood at 404. But that is not what the state alleged in any form or fashion. And it doesn't negate the fact that the vehicle that they see on camera at WSU and Floyd Cannabis Shop could very well be suspect vehicle. And it absolutely, according to Bill Thompson right there, is not Brian Kohberger's car. Let's listen to more of his statement.
At approximately 4:20 that morning, so this would have been 15 minutes or so later, the defendant's car is seen on a surveillance camera for 1112 King Road, which is immediately next door to the west of 1122, leaving the area at a high rate of speed. And if the court were to see that, or anybody in this courtroom would have seen that, you can see the car almost loses control as it makes the corner.
Loses control. Let's take a look at this. I don't see any control loss. Look, whoop, that was precision driving. In fact, if the only way I could describe that is precision driving by an experienced getaway driver. Look, it's perfect.
We know that he drove on the back roads because there are surveillance cameras on the main highways, Highway 95, that would have picked up the defendant's car if he'd gone that route. And they did not show the defendant's car on that route during the time.
Now, whoa. But we got to unpack that. Because what Bill Thompson said is the evidence will show that he went south on Walenta, which is one of the only ways out of town, and then he continued south, but we know he took back roads because if not, he would have been caught on camera footage on Highway 95 South. So we know he took back roads. Whoa. That means, according to Bill Thompson, that they must have located the missing footage of Wasankari and Mundy's machine. And more importantly, the missing footage before 5 a.m. at Gypsy Java. because that would be the only way that they would know that he went on back roads and wasn't captured on that camera footage. So the first thing I want to see once this gag order is released is I want to see the missing camera footage on Mundy's Machine, Wasankari, and Gypsy Java, because according to Bill Thompson right there, they must have found it. But that brings up a whole nother question, because he doesn't just say that Kohberger must have taken back roads through there or else he would have been caught on that camera footage. I mean, if we assume that they actually located that camera footage, his next statement makes it even more interesting, because I don't see any way that it could possibly be true. And I think his generalized statements of "we don't know" is the most telling thing that I heard him say in this entire freaking thing. And I'll show you why. Listen to this.
The evidence would show that following that, the defendant in his Elantra drove south of Moscow. We know that he drove on the back roads because there are surveillance cameras on the main highways, Highway 95, that would have picked up the defendant's car if he'd gone that route. And they did not show the defendant's car on that route during the time. So we know that he went through a variety of back roads in very rural, isolated part of Latah County. About 4:48 that morning, the defendant's phone comes back on. And the evidence will show that that phone was located south of Moscow, likely at a side road intersection with Highway 95.
Okay, now this might be hard for you to follow, but it's just black and white. What Bill Thompson just said is, you see, here's the King Road neighborhood. He said that the vehicle came out and went Walenta. The only way, and he said the last place it's seen is going south on Walenta. The next place his phone data picks him up is on a side street somewhere north of Genesee and south of Blaine, which he's describing an area right in here, one of these side roads. And he's saying he must have taken the back roads because we didn't get him on camera, which means these back roads that were east of Moscow. So one of these types of back roads, which he would have taken off of one of these roads. However, what he's leaving out is that is impossible. Let me show you why. Because when you leave out right here and you come down, the only way that you can go where you're not going to be caught on camera that would put you in that direction would be to come down Sunnyside right here, because he didn't go this way. We know because there's cameras on Paradise and Walenta. So he would have had to have come this way. Like they said in the probable cause affidavit, they thought he took Conestoga back out to Palouse River Drive right here. Well, he can't go this way on Palouse River Drive because there isn't any roads that would lead him back down here to the east side of 95. So it's practically impossible. We know that the only other route that he could have taken to bypass Gypsy Java right here would have been to go across and not be caught on Paradise, would have been to go across to Victoria right here, back up, and then south on 95. We can assume that he didn't do that because if he had taken this route and turned on Southview to go that way, he would have driven right past the Moscow Police Department. If he would have driven south on 95 this way, he would have driven right past Moscow Police Department. We have to assume that since he took all of these precautions not to be caught on camera and take back roads, that he would have never driven right past Moscow Police Department after committing a quadruple homicide. So that negates that route. That means the only route that he could have taken would have taken him on Palouse River Drive to the east of this intersection, where he would have absolutely been caught on camera right here at Gypsy Java. So I need to see the Gypsy Java camera footage because that's the only possible way that could match up to what the state is alleging in this case, that Kohberger came down, took Palouse River Drive to a back road such as this or this that could have circled him back around to south of Genesee, north of Genesee, south of Blaine, or actually it would have even been further down here probably, to one of these back roads that would have led him out to south of Genesee, north of Blaine, or south of Blaine, north of Genesee, where his phone data would have been caught again. So when I say the state's case is absolutely empirically wrong, it's because of things like this, because there are known camera footage that was either missing or now, according to Bill Thompson, they must have it. So I want to see it because that camera footage will prove or disprove the state's case. And he just said the vehicle wasn't on that camera footage. So there's no way for him to get down to where he's claiming he was. Now, when I say there are things where I could see where Kohberger was guilty that I'm not going to report on because it's speculation, well, it's things like this right here. Because absolutely, Kohberger could have come down here over to one of these residences like Emma Bailey's house and stayed for an indeterminate period of time. And then there's still no way. There's no way because he couldn't get over here. So the state's case is absolutely wrong. There's no way to go east and not be caught on camera footage and then have his phone show up down here south of Blaine, north of Genesee. So what is the more likely scenario? That when his phone came back on the network after going to a while way, it came back on the network as he was heading back up towards the King Road residence because people had asked him to do that. That is the key to this case. But we're going to be able to pick this stuff apart once we get this camera footage, and there's no way the state's case can be right based on Bill Thompson's statements in that closing. But thankfully, we've got the work of Gray Hughes Instigates. And thanks to fair use, I'll show you a clip from one of his videos, and I'll put the link to the description of that video I'll put the link to that video in the description of this video to keep in compliance with fair use rules. But we'll watch as he was driving, and he's trying to rationalize in his mind this missing time. And I want to point out that brightly lit up Gypsy Java as he does this, because I want that video footage first.
Now, as I explained earlier, there is 15 or 16 minutes of missing time, meaning the vehicle should have reached Blaine area, the area where the phone pinged, around 4:33-ish. Turning on Highway 95. And it is possible that he took just a longer route.
So as you hear Gray there state, well, he could have taken another route, and you hear Bill Thompson state, well, he must have taken back roads because we didn't catch him on the camera footage. I don't see any way where it's possible for Brian Kohberger to leave out of the King Road neighborhood at 420 and end up in Blaine, Idaho, near 95 on some back road at 448 and not be caught on the camera at Gypsy Java, Wasankari, or Mundy's Machine. And that's why the defense, I believe, was hitting so hard on that missing footage. According to Bill Thompson, there was camera footage that should have caught him and didn't. I'm assuming he's stating that they found the missing camera footage from Gypsy Java, Mundy's Machine, and Wasankari Construction. If they did, in fact, find that camera footage, I'd like to see it. And when they release the gag order, that's the first cameras that you know that I want to see. And then I want to see how it's possible for Kohberger to get from the King Road residence to Blaine, Idaho, near 95, and not go past one of those cameras in 28 minutes, because I don't think it is possible. And I think that is the most critical part of this case, that if they can't produce that camera footage that shows that that's not possible, there's no way Brian Kohberger could have got from point A to point B in the time frame allotted without going past those. I think that's going to be one of the most critical parts to this thing. Now, there's so many things in Thompson's statement that we can pick apart. But I wanted to pick apart just those two things, because that is undeniably factually inaccurate from PCA to what he said there. And it's also physically impossible for that to be Brian Kohberger's car at Floyd Cannabis Shop, as he tried to continue to say, and it not be his car on Stadium Way and Nevada Street, which they know it wasn't. It is absolutely down to the second more likely that suspect vehicle 1 that they captured on Northeast Nevada Street and Stadium Way is the vehicle that was captured at Floyd Cannabis Shop. And there is no earthly way that Brian Kohberger's car can get from the King Road residence to 95 and Blaine and not pass Gypsy Java at the very least. So we are going to be the state's worst nightmare when this thing comes out and they release that gag order, and I want them to know that. And I would sure love for Ann Taylor not to wait and to write a tell-all book, but do an interview and let us know some things like, were you ever able to get access to the missing camera footage that you hit Brett Payne so hard for on the stand? Were you ever able to accurately locate through CSLI data the exact path that Brian Kohberger's car took? Were you ever able to verify that Brian Kohberger turned his phone off? Or was it simply he hit the network edge and stopped reporting? Ann Taylor, you've got to answer these questions for us. We've got to know. Please do not hold that stuff to yourself. And then we want the defense's investigation notes in this case released. That is going to be the most important thing. We want the defense's investigation notes in this case released. And there is no reason for them to not release those notes. There's so many things that we've got to look at, but you can bet this thing isn't over until it's over. I hope everybody had a wonderful 4th of July. I know I did. Me and Miss Pive, we headed out to the lake, did a little fishing. We didn't do so good yesterday. Caught a few, but not like the last time we went. And it's pretty hot out there right now. But we just had just a really good 4th of July. I hope everybody else did. I hope you have a wonderful and safe the rest of your 4th of July weekend. And until justice is served and we all have peace of mind that justice has been served, there is no way we can slow down on this thing. This one is too important. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Post your comments, thoughts, criticisms. Till next time, Pavarotti's out.